he had a really... The best way that I can really describe it is that he had a really kind of like... He really kind of pushed me to my limits as a GM. Actually, you know what? Shit. Since I'm on it, I'm gonna get right to this. He decided that his mage was going to awaken, which is the technical term for coming into your powers, because he was part of a demonic ritual of a earthbound demon trying to make a Nephilim, which is essentially a demon-human hybrid. You know, all the powers of a demon, all the qualities of a human, that kind of thing. Well, usually that doesn't go over so consensually, to put it that way. And he awakened and pretty much bitch-slapped the demon, though not back into its own... pretty much didn't take it out. And that's how he awakened to his powers. And he was a... he worked as a... Oh god, what did he work as? It was a, I think he worked for like some like library or like a reporter or something like that. He was really like a weird guy. Like he picked up this weird flaw where that like everybody was super creeped out by him. So anyway, then, as another mage, I had Alexei Kumachov, who was a Russian who used to be really into the Catholic Church, and as my friend is a little bit biased against such things, it was put in his backstory, the priests were diddling him and stuff, and which kind of led to his career now as a professional male escort, who was also a mage. I believe that he was a Euthanatos, which is pretty much the people who they're the closest thing that I can equate them to is like necromancers. Now, like I said, that was pretty much his backstory. He had a little bit more to it. He was really just very charismatic guy. Then I had... Oh god, I can't remember his name for the life of me, his character's name, but the guy who would be my co-GM, Joe, was, he was playing a demon, who was a radio jockey. So he would, you know, host his own shows and stuff like that, and I want to say he was trying to get the paranormal out there, because demons, they inhabit mortal bodies, and then they kind of take on facets of their old life and just kind of, you know, do things. And usually they've got some kind of goal in mind. I wasn't too sure what his was, and mostly because I didn't get to the point where I really had to make sure of it. Then I had... Oh god, another character that I can't remember their name, so I'm just gonna go with the player name again. Freddy was playing a Toreador, which is a vampire clan that's pretty much just like obsessed with beauty, but their problem is that, you know, they can't actually make anything that's beautiful themselves. I guess because they're dead or something. I guess when you die, you lose your imagination, which doesn't make any sense considering just how imaginative that these players could be sometimes. She was pretty much playing a secretary to the vampire head of state, essentially, in the city, and she was, like, her concept was, like, on-the-edge secretary, and she was pretty much, like, always had a gun with her, was gonna, like, kill someone. Past that, there was a, God, I feel like I'm forgetting someone really important. No, I think I got mostly everybody. I know that there was a changeling that was with them for a while, and there's a couple other NPCs that crop up from time to time. So anyway, so onto the... well, actually, no, the NPCs I can kind of introduce you as we go along. This is already starting to run a little bit longer than I thought it would. But, so anyway, the game starts in New Orleans, and there's really not a whole lot to do, you know. Abel's up in his mansion, you know, after going to school, and you know, Maggie's making a promotion for a new club that's opening, and Joe's derping around as a demon because I don't believe that he picked up any followers, so he had to actually kind of roleplay out making new followers. Well, I kind of made this hub for people to kind of like gather at. And it was like a really popular place. It was called the Treehouse, which is a nod to the well, I mean, it's a nod to Otherland because there's essentially an internet chat room in that book called the Treehouse. Well, this was an internet cafe, and they served coffee, and it was actually run by two mages. Ian Fenpole Bridges, and Fenpole is in quotations because that's his freaking nickname, and then Stanley Scanny Bridges. They're both twins that look nothing alike. They were both a virtual adept, which is the computer junkies of mages, and a son of ether, which is essentially your Pulp Fiction mad scientists. Now, these two have kind of made this lounge for people to hang out in, and because I really just kind of like talked about it a lot, people started kind of getting the hints. Hey, maybe we should go here, because World of Darkness is one of those games where that you generally don't have a party to start off with. Generally speaking, you have, you know, this guy, that, and the other over in different sections, and, you know, you got to try and get them together. And usually the way that's worked for me is getting them together in a club, because, you know, everybody goes to clubs if you're a vampire, because that's the easiest place to feed. So eventually, you know, everybody decides to go to the treehouse, and everybody's kind of hanging out. Joe's there working on like his radio podcast or like his blog or whatever the fuck he was doing. And Abel eventually got there, and Nikolai and Alexei and everyone else just, you know, they just kind of like eventually got there. And Fenpole and Scanny are just these ridiculous like caricatures of like mad scientists. There's a point where their signature drink is called the Flux Capacitor, a nod to Back to the Future. Obviously, it's an espresso drink, and they make it for everyone. Everybody loves it. It tastes great. But there's a point where something blows up in the back room, and Scanny's outside talking on his cell phone, and he hears it, and he goes running in through the revolving door. And while at the same time, his brother Fenpole, I'm kind of losing track. Well, both of them essentially run at the revolving door at the same time from opposite ends, and they're just sitting there just screaming, "Revolve, damn you! Revolve!" And eventually the one with the higher strength value eventually revolves it out. The other one goes spilling out into the sidewalk and goes running back in because they think that they're about to cause like a temporal rift, and when in fact all that they've done is make the best damn coffee in the world. Running out of beer here. So anyway, so the group gets together, and they're just kind of hanging out. And legitimately, it's just kind of like the first game that I ran was just a pickup game, just like, hey, guys, I'm here. I'm at the bar, or well, we ran it at a hookah bar in town, and you know, because no one was there on Mondays, we were just like, whatever. Well, you know, we used to run all of our games on Mondays, so I was there Wednesday, and so was Joe, and we were like, dude, let's just text everyone and be like, hey, I'm gonna run a game. Who's in? And almost everybody showed up. The only person who didn't show up was, I think Maggie, Kevin, and Freddie, because they lived quite a bit farther away. They actually didn't show up a whole lot, but I'm gonna kind of like talk them into the story because I've been meaning to put this story online or write it down or something, so then they know how the things end. Because I kind of forgot to tell them how the things ended. So anyway, and Buckshot wasn't there because, well, her player had shown up to a couple of our other games. We played Exalted, we played Mage, but she was kind of shy. So she shows up quite a bit later. Also, Fix-It wasn't there because he had ride problems. Because, I mean, you know, gas is freaking expensive. So anyway, so everybody's there, and what ends up happening by the end of this game is Joe has talked to Abel. And Abel's just this little mortal, just like, hey, what are you doing? I've heard your radio show. Hey, you like it? Yeah. Let me show you something really cool. Okay. So they go into the back room, and Joe, being a demon, who knows how to think with portals, shows Abel his use of portals. At this point, two NPCs come in that are pretty interesting folks. The first one is a guy named Stephen Entragian, who is a private detective who works very closely with the New Orleans Police Department, and he's actually a mage. He's actually a Euthanatos, but he doesn't remember awakening. He really doesn't have a memory past 5 years ago, so he's got kind of like this interesting, I don't know what's going on backstory. The other guy who walks in is this ridiculous guy named Ferox Garradon. He has been one of the staples in our games for ages. I made him up, about probably 4 years prior to this game as my character. He was a Cult of Ecstasy, which means that he's a time mage who just gets high, gets drunk, has a lot of sex, and is just ridiculous. He is like he is like a porno version of the Doctor from Doctor Who. No, not really, no. That's actually a terrible analogy. He is a mixture of any kind of time traveler out there, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and a gunslinger. Like Wild West gunslinger. Essentially, he is out there. Like, the entire point of role-playing him is that he doesn't know, like, when that he's talking from. He is so drug and alcohol-addled, and, like, he doesn't know what time frame he's in. He talks in past tenses about things that haven't happened yet. He's just a really ridiculous character. But he's also kind of a serious guy.